Imagine this for your business. An inside sales rep who never misses a call, nails the presentation every single time, handles complaints, gets the jobs booked and on the schedule. They work 24/7, never complain, never call out sick, and when they're not answering the phones, they're following up with leads and talking to your clients exactly the way you would. That sounds kind of too good to be true, doesn't it? Well, that is exactly what today's guest, Zeb Dawson, has created using AI to help Main Street businesses take their business to the next level and blow out their sales goals every quarter. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Locally Owned. And today I'm joined by Zebulon Dawson, a visionary entrepreneur who went from leading operations at Tesla, Motional, and In Charge Energy to founding Happy Path Marketing, a virtual sales and marketing team for small businesses. Zebulon now pioneers AI-powered tools like Follow-Up Pathway and Service Path, helping companies automate, grow, and build what he calls trust bridges. His story is about innovation, freedom, and creating technology that empowers local small businesses. Zeb, I'm excited to have you on the show. Welcome. And tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started.
All right. Yeah, I'll go back to the early days, and thanks for having me on Locally Owned here, Dave. I appreciate the opportunity to share my story and also maybe a few nuggets that some of the your audience members can take away and apply to their businesses. But it's really, it does go back to my early, as a kid. Really had my very first, I guess, quote unquote business was I had a rock tumbler, and I was making jewelry and selling it at my mom's yard sales and things like that. So early days of kind of always figuring out, okay, how do I start to make my own money? And
Yeah,
I think it was driven. Both my parents are entrepreneurs. They've had a couple of businesses throughout the years, some brick and mortar. My dad currently owns a fishing charter on Lake Erie, so we do charter business. So it growing up on a farm and everything else, kind of always been in that entrepreneurial world and influenced by business owners in our community. So as time went on, I ended up, was kind of grew up there in the 90s with the evolution of the internet and computers and technology. So I, saw a need in my local community for PC repair and an IT service kind of business. So when I was in high school, I officially launched my first LLC with a couple of close friends of mine. There was the three of us. Started our first company. We called it PCA Tech, and we were doing home computer repair business. So really from the early days, I've been in the service industry. And if you naturally kind of progress, it was all about learning the business and operations and customer service and all of these utilization. And so it kind of organically was able to feed into my career in the corporate world of operations, and that's where I went and spent a majority of my career, as you mentioned in the intro there, with some big names people recognize like Tesla and Motional, and I actually spent some time at Uber as well, and some of those big tech companies in some of their early days. So was able to learn a lot, influenced a lot by seeing how the tech industry moves quickly. There's a saying they use in the tech industry: "Move fast and break things," and that's basically a lot of trial and error is what that really means. And I think as a local business and a small business owner, we're always doing a lot of trial and error. You're always trying to figure out what works, what resonates with your audience, your community. And when you look at technology, it's changing so quickly. You're always trying to figure out where should I be putting my dollars for the best return. And I know as my parents as business owners, I remember we were always getting everybody's coming in every day, like some trying to sell you in ad space in the local newspaper or on the
right.
radio or on a billboard or a placemat or a phone book back in the day. So you're kind of overwhelmed with options on like where do I put my business. So that's what really led me to saying I want to get back into be able to guide businesses through the challenges that technology presents and allow them to use that to their benefit.
Yeah, it's interesting that you started this company,
Yeah.
PCA Tech, and um, you considered it a service company and not a technology company.
Yeah. Well, we were really, back then, this was early 2000s, and we named it PCA Tech because back then it was PDAs, personal digital assistants, were kind of the trending thing. So we were kind of a play on words to that. So we were personal computer assistants.
Ah,
And so our PCA Tech was our DBA name, but it was really personal computer assistants. And we were just that. We'd go to your home and help you, set up your internet, set up your home computer, your personal printer, whatever it may be. This was the, time period where a lot of people were getting home computers, getting internet. I grew up in a more rural area, so we didn't have a Best Buy, a Geek Squad. There wasn't really a lot of resources for locals. And
right.
then that evolved into businesses. A lot of these local communities were business owners. So I had the local optometrist, the local car dealership, the local accountant. So we started doing their business, and then it's like their employees were like, "Well, can you come to my house and help me? I've got an issue, or I'm trying to get a laptop for, my kids are going to college. Like, what do you recommend?" And um, so it was more service. I would say we were doing more hardware, service, repair, break fix work back then. Then, whereas today, when people ask what do I do, I say, I own a software company.
Okay. Now, how did you get involved in technology? And how old were you when you started PCA Tech?
Yeah, I was in high school, and so, probably 17, 16, 17, somewhere in that time frame, with PCA Tech. And I was very fortunate. My parents were they were kind of visionaries in a sense of technology. They saw that the home computer was really going to be important to the future, for their kids. So in the early 90s, I remember my mom and dad went into a Sam's Club and bought a compact Presario. If you guys remember the compact computer
Oh
brand.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And we had a compact Presario with a Intel Pentium 486 processor. I think it didn't even come with the 56K modem. I think we upgraded it to put the dial-up modem in, and I think it had like a 28K old modem, and so it was. In fact, it still had a 5.5 quarter floppy. So that'll kind of give you the
Oh wow.
time frame there. It
Yeah.
was early 90s, and it was I think it came with Windows 3.1 at that time, and so it was early days, and that was our first computer. And my uncle, actually, my dad's brother, my uncle, he owned an appliance repair business. So he was kind of always into appliances, was kind of bled into tech, and he had some coworkers and other business partners that were more into the computers. So we had a few extra PCs sitting around that I could tear apart, and I just naturally was always one of those kids that was always tearing things apart. It didn't matter if it was the telephone or the radio or whatever, taking it apart, putting it back together, figuring out how it works. So just that natural curiosity kind of led me into the tech, and then I was really just fascinated. And there was a TV channel called ZDTV, later became Tech TV, and I would literally put in a VHS and record this show called Call for Help that Leo Laporte was, who's now actually a podcaster himself, but he was recording. People would call in with their computer problems and say, "Hey, my printer's not working. This was going on." And he would troubleshoot it on TV. So I would record those and then go back and watch it, and then I kind of taught myself how to solve computer problems and fix issues, and applied that to what later on became my business. Yeah, and we had that time it was kind of popular to build your own computer, so that was something that was kind of fun. So I'd order the parts, and there was a lot of learning compatibility and troubleshooting and things not working. I kind of evolved from building Legos to building computers through my childhood. It was a fun time, a lot of trial and error, and technology was moving fast then, and it's moving even quicker now.
Listening to this part of Zeb's story, what really stands out to me is how consistent his wiring has been from the beginning. His constant, deep curiosity for how things work, paired with a service-oriented mindset that doesn't just build tech, but figures out how to help people with it. I love how he didn't shy away from exploring different paths early on and pushing himself to learn sales, even though he was an introvert, just understanding how important that is for every entrepreneur. So that mix of curiosity, service-oriented mindset, and tenacity, it feels like it's been a through line all the way through into what he's doing today. So tell me, how did you walk me through a little bit of your path and your time working with Tesla and Uber and some of these other bigger
Yeah.
industries, and how that shapes the way you do business now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you a really quick kind of jump through some of my history of my work history. So I didn't end up going to college. I started off. I went to actually Pittsburgh Technical Institute, which is actually no longer around, but like went there for a while for classes for doing hardware and learning things. And I realized that I'd already spent so much time doing it. I was kind of bored there, and I went out. So I was one of those kids that went to college and was like, it's not for me. I was kind of bored. I did go to DeVry University and took some classes in entrepreneurship later on, but I went into the workforce pretty quickly, and it was customer service. I grew up on the farm. We grew up next to a winery, so I did a lot of labor and things like that. But then my first real job was actually at J.C. Penney's, and when I was in high school, I went in and I was selling family shoes, and so I was kind of learning that was my first sales job. And then did some server work at Bob Evans, a restaurant back in Ohio, and some different places, and Dillard's, and some different retail sales. And then I fast forward, I went into door-to-door sales. I was selling for Scott's Miracle-Gro Company, selling lawn service down in Daytona Beach, Florida area, and then I did some home security sales. So early days after had the computer business for a while, kind of decided to find my way, and I always was told, if you can sell, you'll never starve. So like get out there and learn how to sell, and I was a little bit more introverted, probably a lot more introverted back then. So getting out to do door-to-door sales was very uncomfortable for me, but
Yeah.
it taught me so much.
Yeah.
And it really, these little moments in time, you don't realize that you're doing it at the moment. I was doing it because I needed to make money to survive. But along the way, you're learning, how to deal with rejection, and you're learning, how to overcome objections with sales, and you're learning how to approach strangers and to cold door knocking. Later on, I did
And
Aflac
how to
business
effectively
cold
talk to
marketing.
people, even if you're introverted. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was, so that was, I kind of did that for a while. Then I came back into the IT space for a bit, did some contract work, and was doing a little bit of more software side of things. And then through '08, with the economic kind of challenges in the country, my position was eliminated, and some changes forced me to kind of make a career change. And at that time, Tesla was kind of just coming into they've been around for a few years, but they were really now kind of making a name for themselves. And I was like, man, this is great. I love automotive and I love technology. And this was like a big computer on wheels, and I put the two
Right.
together. So I, through a series of time, I was, and it took a while to get hired in there. I got hired in at Tesla, and it was fun because Tesla was in what I call the Wild West days. It was we were trying to really sell electric vehicles, educate people on electric vehicles, and the company was going bankrupt almost every single day. Like it was really, it was not the company it is today. So and they were not profitable at that time. So there was this spirit of like do whatever you have to do essentially to build your teams, to grow the sales, to educate. So once again, I got to become, I treated it like my own business. I could in there, and I was in Cleveland, Ohio, working for Ryan Beck, who became a good friend of mine, and we're still friends today. Was my manager there, and kind of gave me free reign, and we were able to sell a bunch of cars. Tesla, gave me a position out in California at the headquarters in Fremont to do some of their first early programs out there with actually doing what they called a key swap program, and people buying, trading in their old Tesla now and buying a new Tesla. So that was something brand new to Tesla to do. And then I went into Boston, a new territory, and helped open up stores, helped open up their flagship store in downtown Boston at the Prudential Center, and I helped open up the Cape and New England and expand. So it was really, I did everything from government regulation with Tesla and getting Teslas into Michigan, to superchargers and electrification, to sales, customer service, doing home deliveries, home test drives, all of that. And I really got to run that as my own kind of business. And so that was a huge learning experience and a ton of work. But it wasn't sustainable. It's one of those careers that it'll burn you out after time. If you talk to anyone at Tesla, you'll hear similar stories. So I was ready for a change, and now now we're looking at the time period of about 2016, and autonomous vehicles are coming into the picture. And Uber had just launched their autonomous vehicles in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I'm originally from Northeast Ohio. I'd lived in Pittsburgh, like I mentioned earlier, and going to school a little bit. So I was like, well, let me head back to Pittsburgh and see what's going on. And I did. And before I even had a chance to apply to Uber, they had reached out to me. I think I posted my resume or something online somewhere. They reached out to me. And I remember it distinctly. It was it was in 2016 on Thanksgiving Day. I had the interview because it was a Canadian recruiter, so there was just a normal work day for them. And I interviewed with them, and I started in. I said, I need a little time off from. I'd left Tesla in October of 16. I said I need a little time off now and want to start at the beginning of the year. So I started with Uber in 2017. And a fun fact about Uber is back in when I lived in Columbus, Ohio, prior to Tesla, when I was kind of in between after the '08 issues with losing my job and kind of in between things, I was driving for the first time. I'd actually driven as an Uber driver for a little bit of time. And back then it was like an iPhone 4, and you actually went to a hotel and got training on how to be an Uber driver. And so I joke,
Wow.
I said, I kind of saw the full thing go full circle, because later on when I was at Motional, we did the first truly driverless rides with Uber, nobody in the driver's seat at all. And so I went from being an Uber driver to building autonomous vehicles that were Ubers with no driver. So it was kind of
Yeah.
a
You,
kind of a
you,
cool
you built yourself out
journey.
of a job.
I did. And so throughout those time I was at in autonomous vehicles, we were learning, we're doing passenger rides also. Once again, always been kind of customer facing, customer service, but you're learning about all these challenges, and you're looking at leaders. You're looking at Travis Kalanick, and there was the whole kind of fallout with that. And you looked at, I was in rooms with Elon Musk and Travis Kalanick and these guys that were founders and built large companies, right? So they kind of, for me, was like, okay, this is really inspirational for me. But they also had, none of us are perfect, and neither are they. And so there was always, there was definitely some conflicts and some, different decisions that led to undesirable outcomes sometimes. And so uh, I transition. I get recruited over to this company, which actually was Delphi Automotive at the time. If you remember Delphi from the days of the old GM days, they had just bought a company called Automatica out of Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, and Delphi was changing their name, going to kind of splitting off their powertrain division and becoming Aptiv, which is still around today, and launching an autonomous vehicle division in Las Vegas. So they sent me out. I launched our Las Vegas market from the ground up, hired a couple hundred people, built an organization. I started off as an autonomous vehicle driver and operator, because that's what the only role they had open. Quickly became an
When
operations
what
manager.
year was this?
This is 2017. So I was at Uber for just a short amount of time, for about probably 10 months or so at Uber with their Pittsburgh operation. And then it was October of 17, I moved out to Vegas.
So I didn't realize we had driverless vehicles at that point. So you're saying there were driverless vehicles in Vegas at in 2017.
So in 17 we were doing they were self-driving cars. So there's a distinction between a driverless car and a self-driving car. A
Okay,
driverless car has no human at all in it. So a self-driving car has a human behind the wheel, what the car is doing the driving, but there's a safety operator there
gotcha,
still. Yeah.
gotcha. Okay,
Yeah, so it was actually, we came out here with with an Audi SQ5 platform, went to a BMW, later on a Chrysler Pacifica, and ended up with the Hyundai Ioniq 5, which is what they still use today. So I still see some of the vehicles that I helped develop out on the roads today, driving around. But yeah, so I built that up. It was a huge learning experience. Opened up multiple markets, Los Angeles, and I was managing our Vegas, Los Angeles at times. I was doing some of the Pittsburgh and Boston. So, and then we had a little bit of a global presence in Singapore and South Korea. So that was a great experience. I went from a vehicle operator to a manager to a director to a senior director, and so it was really a great, I learned so much in those 6.5 years of scaling companies, hiring, firing, figuring out what makes a good person, how to develop leaders, how to build out teams. I was on the business development side. I was seeing, from the legislative side, I was seeing all angles, working with our executive team, worked on our R&D, and then eventually I led our commercialization and our deployments team. So,
well,
so that was the
can I
majority
interrupt
of
you?
my
Can I
my
interrupt you
career
for
there.
just a little bit? I want to know at that level, with something like that, because it's different for, different companies, but that's a pretty high level to be launching something. So, what are the big pieces and how do they come together to launch, like to go to Vegas and to launch something like that?
Yeah, it was, for us as it's a new, not only is it a new site, it's a whole new industry. So there's a lot
Hmm.
of layers of complexity here with working from the local government, meeting with the city of Las Vegas, Clark County, the state of Nevada, all of that to, hiring folks that are comfortable and doing training. So part of that, the complexities I would say is the number one is safety. That's always, and if you look at the history of autonomous vehicles, unfortunately, Tesla had some, or no, I'm sorry, Tesla has also, but and Uber as well has had some, really undesirable outcomes. And so safety is always at the pinnacle of this because it's really, you're one accident away from really having, a detrimental impact to your business.
Mm.
And
Right.
so, figuring out how do you safely train your operators and then putting your standard operating procedures in place and making sure that you have the right folks in charge when you're building your leaders, you're doing your shift briefs, you're allowing your team to have these safety breaks, doing check-ins. The one thing that is dangerous when you're owning your own business, you're scaling a company, is everybody's very excited, ambitious, and burnout you can kind of get burned out without really acknowledging that, and that becomes dangerous, especially when you're in a safety environment. And so,
Mm.
and moving fast and breaking things does not work well with when you're talking about putting vehicles on the road.
Right. Yeah.
Um, so a lot of it became to training, and you had to build out that. And it's when you're going into emerging technology, you don't really have a reference. So a lot of times I would look at like the airline industry, because it was a parallel industry in a lot of ways, with safety being so important,
Right.
utilization efficiencies, new technologies. Like there were a lot of parallels when you looked at the aviation industry, which is also a passion of mine. So I enjoyed looking at those parallels and, um, obviously, working with NHTSA and some of that. So safety was always at the pinnacle of our, what we were doing. But and then the next part of that is finding the right leaders, hiring people that you can develop into leaders.
As you're listening to Zeb, it can kind of be difficult to relate because the work that he's describing, it's not everyday stuff for Main Street businesses. But there are definitely some lessons to be learned here. I mean, you may not be launching something as technologically advanced as autonomous vehicles, right? But you are often when you have this great idea for your business, you are faced with the challenge. Well, how do I implement this? Right? It's a great idea, but there's a lot of things that you don't know how to do. So I think a great takeaway is to think of an idea the same way you would how a company like Uber approaches a launch. And then, as Zeb describes, break it into its essential components and figure out who are the who's that know the how's in order to get the job done. Now, that is where most of us get stuck, right? We have to find who's that know how to do something that we don't know how to do in order to get this idea to come to life. And that really scares us. One, because we don't really know where to go to find the who's that already know the how's. But two, we don't know that we can trust that they understand our vision and that they're going to be as committed to it as we are. And that's often where we just give up, right? We just don't even, we give up on this great idea. But the problem in that equation is us, right? The right who's are out there. We just have to get past our fear of giving up control.
And there's always, there's some people that are just, they want to come in, they want to do their job, and that's great because you need those folks as well. Then there's other people that really have that drive that want to come in, learn the craft, excel at it, and learn how to build teams and duplicate that. And you need those folks as well, especially when you're scaling. And so, going in and hiring the right folks, and then also not being afraid to admit, hey, we probably not the best fit for the team. You need to make some restructuring and some changes, and those are always a little bit more difficult conversations. But it's important to make those decisions. And also, I've noticed in these different companies that there's a lot of decision paralysis where people are not, nobody wants to make a decision, so then nothing
Yeah.
happens, and that's also challenging. And I tell people all the time, I said, just make a decision. It doesn't matter if it's the right or wrong decision right now. I mean, obviously, if it's a safety critical thing, it's a little bit different. But most of the time, they're not safety critical decisions. Make a decision and let's move, and then let's learn from that, and let's say, okay, will we do it differently or the same? Um, a lot of times, not making a decision at all can actually be more detrimental than actually just making the wrong decision.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so there's no perfect timing in life and a lot of things. And I talk to people all the time that are like, well, I'm thinking about starting a business. I'm like, well, start now. Because you're never going to find that perfect time. It's like trying to find the
Right.
best time to buy a house and have kids and start a family. There's no perfect time. You just got to,
Yep.
you just got to do it.
Yep. And the right decision is never, doesn't just pop up and say, here I am. It's,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
it looks
I
like the other decisions a lot of times.
Exactly. I tell people, I said there's going to be multiple answers that are right, and you got to just try to pick the most right one. But it's not going to be ever, very rarely, is it very clear that this is exactly what you need to do. And especially when you're looking at like what I'm doing today with technology, because things are changing and you're dealing with algorithms. You've got, now AI that is constantly changing, even like search algorithms and SEO and all of these kind of back end things that we've all learned one way are all kind of being upended a little bit right now with AI and how that's changing. So just make a decision, go with it, look at the data, and then we can make a decision. And that's one of the things from whether it was autonomous vehicles or whether it's my clients today is I always I said, let's make a data driven decision. We don't have to guess. Let's look at the data. If we don't have our own data, can we find some comparative analysis data that we can look at to see like, okay, well, here's something that's similar. Here's what the data shows, and I'll try it. Let's see our own data, and then like let's reevaluate after we get some data in.
right, right. Yeah. It's like the law of physics. You can only direct a moving object, not
Exactly.
so yeah.
Yeah. And I tell people that even with the retail, I said, you don't know what's going to work. So if you're trying to figure out how to get more customers in the door, or, you can start doing things, and then you got to collect some data on it, figure out what it is, and what you did differently, and how you're trying to connect with your customer. The biggest issue I see out there nowadays is there's so much noise everywhere
Hmm.
on our phones. We're just inundated with it. So it's, as a small business owner, it's hard to connect with your clients. And I find the most impactful way for me, even in a business, it's more of a virtual business, is getting out there and going to events. In fact, I have an event tonight, a dinner that I'm going to a networking event and meeting people face to face as much as you can. That's kind of the best and most impactful way. I think we're almost getting fatigued from just so much, just digital. And ever since COVID, there hasn't been. I feel like we still haven't got fully back to that in person environment. And really, that's where you build the most impactful relationships.
Yeah, yeah. No, you're right. I think COVID sort of put the development of the technology to meet people and to have, Zoom certainly, became a word that everybody was familiar with.
Hmm.
And so it made it easier for us to connect, but at the same time, you're missing that, face to face element that you can't replace, and so like you said, it just makes it easier so that your space gets filled up with so many more contacts, and it's yeah, nothing there. It's hard to find things that are meaningful within that.
Yep. No, exactly. And it's important to have those. Like you said in my introduction, I call them trust bridges. And it's when it's networking, don't always think about it as what am I going here to get for myself. It's just like meeting people, and then they're going to bring up through natural conversation. And I kind of have this saying I always say, like, oh, I know a guy, right? Like there's always like, I mean, we're talking about getting our driveway, we need to get our driveway sealed before winter gets here. So, oh, I know a guy that does that, owns a business, right? And I joke that I should have launched a website years ago called I Know a Guy, and you can just go in there and find these businesses. But that's what I really like to do. I love to connect other people. And that's why I call it a trust bridge. I said, you know me, you trust me. I know someone that owns another business that they trust me, and because mutually you both trust me, I can build this trust bridge, introduce you, and you naturally have this trust. So it naturally is versus a cold contact. There's a little bit of trust there that's already being built, so that you can kind of continue that relationship. And now, if Dave wants his driveway sealed, he knows this. He trusts this guy more than off of somebody that he would find just doing a Google search because I introduced him. And so that's kind of what I mean when I say trust bridges. And it's important because if you do that enough, and there's a saying that I didn't come up with this, but they say if you help enough other people get what they want, you're going to get what you want. And so again, it's like what goes around comes around. So you help other folks connect it, build business, they're going to say, hey, you know what? That's right. you need to talk to Zeb because he's got some AI software that would really benefit your business, and it'll come back around to you.
Yeah, no, I'm a big believer in that. Yeah, I think that was Zig Ziglar that said that. So
Yes, I think you're
yeah,
right.
I think
Yeah,
I think people have heard of that guy. So
I think so. A
yeah.
few of the audience members have.
Well, that sounds like okay, that's fine. That works nice. And, if you're my neighbor, I can help you with that, or, in a small little setting. But you've, built trust bridges. That's been a really important thing for you, even, as in your roles with Tesla and Motional, hasn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, when I was, I think it's a key quality on honestly with leadership. I mean, when you're in a leadership position, your team needs to trust you for the decision making, and also your executive. So it's trusting up and down, and you're trusting that the your leaders are making the right decisions, and you're empowering them. And one of the things I really stress with my own leadership and others is it's hard sometimes, especially when you're a business owner. It's hard to back away and let someone else do things because
Hmm.
nobody can do it as good as you can. And trusting that they will, and they may not do it the exact same way you're going to do it, and they may not do it as well as you think that you could do it. But what is important is allowing them to do that, showing them that you trust them to do this task or this project, and watching them grow, and just giving them some guidance when necessary, not hovering over them. But that will
Hmm.
allow you now, whether you're a leader or a business owner, to focus on new opportunities, new growth, and other things that really do desire that need to require your attention. And you can't do everything. And if you want to scale, you want to grow your business, you have to be able to learn how to build these trust bridges between you and your employees, and also your whether it's your partners outside, your vendors, your other business associates, in order to allow you to scale. And a lot of us built these businesses so we can have some freedom. And if you ever want to step away and go take your kids on a trip or something, you need to be able to have people you can trust to continue to run your business.
Right. This is something that I've observed in myself and a lot of other business owners that I work with, is that deep in the nature of a small business owner is the spirit of DIY, right? And that's do it yourself mentality. It can be a great asset to, as far as getting things done. But at some point, it really does become a liability. And what I think Zeb is so smart for is being intentional about networking. Because remember earlier he said that he was an introvert, but he learned sales by just getting out there, being uncomfortable until he wasn't. And I think our independent streak as business owners makes us shy away from networking with others or going to networking events because those environments are really uncomfortable for us. And sometimes they can feel a little bit contrived to us. But I love the quote that he used by Zig Ziglar that you can have everything in life that you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. So essentially, if we have a mindset shift about networking and see it as a way of helping others get what they want, whether it's our services or connecting them to other people, that we will eventually get what we want too, because we're building our network of professionals that we have relationships with. And honestly, I don't think you can really take your business to the next level without building that relationship capital.
And if you a lot of the audience is probably familiar with Robert Kiyosaki and that cash flow quadrant. On the book, that in the front of that book, he has those four quadrants, which is an employee, self-employed, business owner, and investor. And a self-employed, a lot of people say, well, I'm self-employed. Well, that's great, but that doesn't get you that time and money freedom necessarily.
Right.
A dentist might own a practice that's self-employed, but they can't, if they leave and they're the only dentist, the office has to be closed. They're not making
Right.
money.
Yeah.
Where a business owner has those folks in place that they can trust, that are out, running the crew, doing the work, and they can step away, and they can be at a networking event. They can take time with their family, or they can do other things to help grow the business. So I tell you that's a big distinction between, be careful when you're saying, are you self-employed or a business owner, because there's a big difference
Right.
there.
Right.
And so yeah, so
Well,
that's yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say that there's a book. I don't know if you ever read it. It's called The Speed of Trust, and
Okay.
it's written by Stephen Covey, and everybody knows Stephen Covey
Oh
for
yeah, of
the
course. Yeah.
yeah. I think it's a much better book. It is. It is. The things that he goes into just I wouldn't do it justice if I tried to give you a brief synopsis, but it's really is about how you can get so much more done when there's trust there. And a
Hmm.
simple example that I remember from reading that book that I applied to my own life. My old, the business I sold, we had a front area to the shop where people came in and parked. And I thought, well, I need to make this look nice, and get some flowers and stuff like that.
Right.
And I spent about an hour trying to figure out what to put out there, what gets good sunlight, all that. And then I was just like, you know what? Okay, let me do what this book says. The guy who owns the local nursery,
Hmm.
he's a client of mine. I'm going to call him and just say, hey, John, can you send someone over here to fill this up? I trust you that
Right.
whatever, that they'll do a great job, and whatever the price is, I'm sure it's fair. And I
Right.
mean, within, a day or two, the place looked amazing,
Sure.
and it was
Yeah.
just like, I didn't have to put any effort into that. And it looked fantastic and was better than I could ever do on my own. And so,
Yeah, 100%, exactly. And that's where, like in my business, we're a virtual business, but we use a lot of virtual assistants. We use other folks to help scale because, like you said, I have relationships with vendors and other business partners, and it's you said something also that's important there, not only to trust, but also recognizing that you're not an expert in everything. And I think
right.
as business owners, sometimes we like to feel that we're experts in everything, and so I've learned to don't be an expert. Know how to identify and build a trust bridge with an expert that you can lean on, bring in, whether it's for yourself or your clients or whatever. Um, I do that with digital ads. I mean, digital ads are very complex and it's a lot of money, and you want to make sure you're getting a good return. I'm not an expert at digital ads, but we have great guys on the team that are Google ad experts, that are Meta ad experts, and that's what they do, and that's what they love to do, and they're really good at it. So I'm not going to go try to do that. And just like you're not going to go try to learn about all the right flowers and plants to put in front of the building, trust someone that has that knowledge is going to be able to do it. And like you said, they're a client, and I always love that. I love doing business with someone that's doing business with me, and vice versa. Like it's to me, I always try to figure out a way, like, how can I, even if it's a client that I might not traditionally like, say I had a florist or somebody that's doing bit like I might, but hey, I want to send my grandmother some flowers. I'm going to call that florist and have them sent because like I've got a existing relationship with them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The trust is there already, and it's like,
Exactly.
sure, just go ahead and do it. I know it's going to be fine.
Yep.
So, yeah. And it makes things so much easier. But a lot of business owners get into business because they have this skill or this ability, and they're do it themselves, or if that's a word,
Exactly.
they're
Yeah.
DIYers, and
Yep.
so the knee jerk reaction when something needs to get done is, let me figure out how to do it.
Do it myself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, and I think, for me, one of the reasons I started Happy Path Marketing was because, when you're a small business, you are trying to do it yourself and you're trying to, okay, well, let me do the website. And it ends up being, well, I think this is good enough for now. Or, I'm notorious at my own home projects. I've got a half dozen of them that get started and, that don't get finished or whatever. Right. So, somebody starts to build a website or they have good intentions, but then the business, you got to take care of the customers and things like that. And so, what I realized was like I love to come in as, I call it your virtual sales and marketing team and say, hey, like you focus on, doing your craft, going out, running your crews to do HVAC or running your teams to do solar sales or whatever it may be. Let us handle, the kind of the digital your digital footprint in a sense. And so just much like you had somebody come over to do the landscaping, like, let us do your digital landscaping and let us do your website. Let us take care of, what you want to do. But we want to know, we're going to create we're going to take your vision and make it into something. So, we're going to talk to you and do it. It's very boutique type of consultative sale where we want it to look just like you're doing it, but we're going to do it on your behalf essentially. And so that's where we found a lot of success because they're like a lot of guys that we talked to are like, yeah, thank goodness, please, because I'm tired of doing it, or I had a friend's kid that was doing it for a while and now they're off in college. And so, or it's just overwhelming. It's like, yeah, I hear AI. I don't even know where to start with it. I've been using Chat GPT. Like, is that AI? It's like, yeah, is it really helping your business? I don't know, probably not as much as it could be. So that's where we kind of come in and figure out like, okay, in this kind of changing environment now, how do you, where do you want to grow? What are the, what are the new clients that you're trying to contact, build relationships, build those trust bridges with, and how can we help you, with your brand? Kind of like the last podcast I listened to that you put out to hear recently about branding is, you talked about putting that, that salsa brand on the end of an end cap in a grocery store because of the trust you have with that grocery store. Much like on your digital front, you want to get your brand out there, whether it might be on social media, on some, industry sites or whatever, getting your brand out there in correlation or in cooperation with another brand that you're trusting or partnering with that's trusted brand is really important. It's similar to why people join the Better Business Bureau or they join the Chamber of Commerce. There's a inherent trust there with those
Right. Yeah.
organizations that their name's associated with. And so we just help kind of extend that.
Yeah. Yeah. You're taking a loan out on their trust,
Exactly.
in
Yeah,
that
I love that
sense.
analogy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned Happy Path marketing. So how did you make the jump from, you're working with companies like Tesla and Motional and Uber
hmm
and launching, doing these launches. So now you're doing Happy Path marketing. How did you go from one to the other?
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, I was at Motional and it's a tech world. Like there's ups and downs. You can kind of see some things changing. And I thought, I've done a lot here. I've kind of, was at a pretty good level, making good money. And the future was like, what am I going to do now? Like I've kind of like I'm one of the, one of my, I guess, qualities or, good or bad is I get bored easily. If not being challenged, I got to go find a new challenge. Right. So I felt like I was kind of getting to a plateau in my career there. And there was some changes that were coming. Hyundai was buying out part of Aptiv and there was financial changes and this restructuring was coming. And so I started thinking about what do I want to do next? Like, what's my next? I don't really want to go work for somebody. I've helped a lot of people build their businesses. I really miss that, just that satisfaction and really getting in there doing my own thing. And so I started looking now at, I've always loved tech. I've loved passion with small business, but I didn't want to be locked into a brick and mortar and a zip code. I want to be able to travel and spend time at my clients' locations. And so I started looking at digital marketing. I've always loved sales, marketing, and I said everybody needs this. It's AI is coming on. So I kind of decided that I can do it from a laptop, and what really helped me is a good friend of mine. Him and his wife are both pilots for Hawaiian Airlines, and they live in Honolulu. And they invited me out early 24, I guess it was about March of 24 to Hawaii, and I'm sitting there, by the pool, and I'm thinking, boy, it would be great if I could just work from here whenever I wanted to, and not have to report to an office because this was the time I was still working at Motional, so I was
Well,
going to
well,
have to
that's
get
a
back on a
sign
plane to
you're
go
an
back.
entrepreneur. Is if you're sitting around a pool thinking about working,
Yeah,
sitting in
exactly. Yeah.
Hawaii thinking,
Yeah. So that kind of that really sparked it, and then so I had a lot. I was doing a lot of work on like, okay, what do I want to do? And then you're always kind of thinking about that, but you're in the comfort zone. And one of the challenges is when you're in a comfort zone, you got a good paycheck. It's hard to make that leap
yeah.
out. So it's like the water looks nice. I don't know if I really want to get into it. I think I'd rather just stay in the boat and kind of go along. Well, come May, I was pushed overboard essentially, right? I was pushed out of the boat. I was forced to go into the water and kind of do my own thing because there was a restructuring and I was laid off, impacted my entire team. My boss, who's the COO, all the way down. We all were kind of we were just laid off, and they were doing restructuring, which we kind of knew was coming. So like that was the final push. That was like, well, now I've got a decision. Now I got to like either am I going to go back to work, help somebody else build a business, or I'm going to do this myself.
Jumping ship or getting pushed overboard for most entrepreneurs really ends up being a pivotal moment for them. And I love what Zeb is saying about how when we're in the comfort zone, we tend to want to stay in the boat, even though we don't really want to be there. And so sometimes we create what I call benevolent stressors. And think of them like this. We exercise, we do ice baths, or we do saunas. We put ourselves in these extreme situations because we know that when we give ourselves over to them, they're actually good for us and they help us grow.
Finally, so I said, okay, I'm gonna do this now. I'm gonna take this leap. So I called my financial advisor. I said, here's what I want to do. What's my runway? How do we what are the investment opportunities, and here's what, kind of figure all the financial things out. And I did do a little bit of work here and there, contract work, but then when you did that, I launched Happy Path, and Happy Path is a play on and from engineer. So when it was kind of an inside joke at Motional, when we're trying to get the autonomous vehicle to take the best route, it's the Happy Path. Always stay on the Happy Path. It's an engineering term. So I
Okay.
I kind of took that to Happy Path with the customer. Like, you want the best experience for your customer. You want to keep them on the Happy Path, solve their problems, give them a great experience, and in turn get a good review and referrals. So I launched it as a more traditional digital marketing agency, and then we started incorporating AI. Then voice AI came around, and then we started thinking, okay, I love emerging technology. I always like to see. I just was watching the most recent Apple. In fact, I'm waiting for my AirPods to show up on Friday because they have the voice translation in them, and the new AirPods. So I'm excited. I'm always trying to get
Yeah.
new tech stuff. So I said, let's get into this AI. So we really started, a couple of folks. Luckily, I was in this industry, and engineers and folks I knew from, building vehicles. I said, we're not going to build vehicles, but let's build some, let's get into some of this AI and figure out how do we build software that can benefit small businesses, keep it affordable, and do all of that. So that's where the first product was the follow-up pathway, which was a CRM, which is simply, it was the biggest thing that's always kind of consistent across sales and businesses. Everything else is follow-up. It's one of those things we all know we need to do. We all probably need to do more follow-up. And so how do we automate that follow-up process? And also part of it is a competitive edge. You may not think you have to do it, but if you look around and everybody else in your industry is starting to do this, it's like sooner or later you're going to be forced to do it, or you're going to get left behind.
Right.
It goes back to the day I tell people, I said, AI is here. Like, you may not think you need it right now, but eventually you're going to really have to start thinking about how you're incorporating it into your business, because it's like the internet. It's like when in the 90s, everybody's talking about the internet. Oh, it's all right. I'll take another ad out in the yellow pages, and, it'll be fine. Well, eventually, yellow pages are no longer getting delivered to your
Right.
doorstep, and the internet, you have to be online. And so that's where AI is. We're in those early days of that transition. So what we have started to do now is we're talking, how are you thinking about incorporating AI? In my opinion, we're not designing AI to replace employees. We're there to assist them so they can be more efficient. And it's like having a little virtual assistant helping you get some mundane tasks done so you can focus on something that's actually driving a little bit more revenue for the business.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Everybody's using it at this point.
everybody's using it, and you can't get away from it. It's in our phones, it's on our computers, it's everywhere we go. And so if you're a business, you need to have your business, people need to be able to find you when they're searching, when they're using it as a search engine. So AI, we use a lot with the voice AI and appointment setting. That's one of the areas where we have a lot of clients and success. Is we have a lot of clients that run ads, paid ads, have been running paid ads. And traditionally, someone submits a form and then somebody has to call them back. Well, now with AI, our AI software will call them and actually qualify that customer and set an appointment, so that the business owner is only dealing with a high intent customer that's qualified, instead of wasting their time. It also, we were talking about before we started recording, it also filters all the spam out, and also makes it so when you're getting those phone calls coming in, they're actually a good customer that's interested in doing business with you, not someone that's trying to tell you that your car warranty is expired.
Right. Now, is this technology that you have developed, or is this technology that you're using to help small business owners, and you just figured out a
Yeah,
way to use this?
no, great question, and it's a collaboration. So on the back end, we still rely on those language learning models. There's actually a couple of different engines that we use. The Gemini engine from Google. We can kind of switch around on some of those. So we've built a couple of models on that. So it's still built on that because those are so massive, it would be impossible to really build our own language learning model. But what's really unique about it, I tell people, I said, like, everybody can go get the raw ingredients, but what's really magical is the recipe and how you put those ingredients together and make the masterpiece, right? And so what we're really good at is getting the right ingredients together to create a product that delivers for our customer. And that's, I tell people, ChatGPT is great, but it's only as good as the prompt that you give it.
Right.
And that's what's really, important when you're creating this. And so I show people, what we do. Could you do it? Yeah, you could spend hours learning how to do it, and you could probably figure it out eventually. I'll open the hood and I'll show you. It's just like a vehicle. Could you build a vehicle? Yeah, if you had enough time and you get all the parts and everything else, you can build your own car. You could build a vehicle. But It's going to cost you a lot more. It's not going to be very efficient. And that's what I tell folks. We've got a team that's doing this. This is their expertise. So that like, it's a tool that's available to you to scale. And we're super flexible. I had a conversation with somebody this morning. I said, like, look, I'm not here to get rich quick. I'm here as for in the long run. And my only way I'm going to be here in the long run is if you're successful. So I said, we need to make this work for you. You're making money. You're making a return on your investment. And I have a saying that we use here at Happy Path, and it's, we want to turn your dollars into data. You're spending dollars with us. We want to show you the data that's coming out. So you know where this money's being spent, how it's being invested, and what the return is. And we don't do any long-term contracts. You can go to our website. You can find that you can buy yearly agreements. I tell people, I said, don't sign up for a yearly agreement until we've done business together. We trust each other. And then you want to save some money, you can do a yearly agreement next year or whatever. But I like doing a month to month. It holds us both accountable, and it lets you have that freedom that, like, hey, if this isn't working out, I'm not happy. I can step away at any time, and I don't have to spend money. I'm not stuck. And that was one of my core, if you talk to a lot of people, they tell you, don't do that, have them sign contracts, do all that stuff. But, I don't like doing that personally. And so we've kind of stuck with that. So there's a few things like that kind of differentiate us from going to a large corporation and doing business with a Salesforce or somebody like that, where you're going to spend a lot of money and be locked into longer term contracts.
Yeah, a lot of people, that's a hiccup for them, is when they got to sign a long-term contract. Now, this technology, the follow-up pathway, how do you, like, what's a typical way that this is used? Like, who are you looking for, or how have you seen people take this technology and use it in a practical way?
Yeah, no, great question. And what I love about it when I talk to clients is they always come up with new ideas on how we can use the technology that we haven't even thought about yet, because they know the business the best. But some of the most classic and successful areas we're using it for, like HVAC, any of the HVAC guys that sell maintenance plans, or they're trying to sell maintenance plans. We're doing outbound calling for them, reminding folks to schedule their appointment for their annual or biannual maintenance. So getting that scheduled on the calendar with them. And also selling it. If they don't have it, hey, you purchased a new unit from us this spring. It's time, for your, winter maintenance or fall maintenance. We have a special going on right now to get into a maintenance plan, or scheduling that maintenance. That's one way we're doing outbound to help people grow their businesses. And that is just adding revenue, filtering in to these HVAC companies. The other one is like in the solar industry. At the end of this year, due to some of the regulatory changes and everything, that the solar incentives are going away at the end of the year for folks that are paying cash and buying these solar panels. So there's a lot of solar companies that are using our software, reach out, put these appointments on, because it's about a month lead time to get solar installed. So really getting down to the end of the time here. So we're seeing it for that. So any business that is looking to set appointments, our outbound AI is really great for that. On the flip side, our inbound voice AI is really great for handling calls, handling any sort of inbound inquiries, whether it's, you're trying to set an appointment, you got FAQs, or you're just trying to do call routing. We do all of that with our inbound. And we even have insurance agents that are using our software now that are doing both inbound and outbound calling, versus using a calling center that was traditionally overseas or outsourced somewhere. So what's great about it is we can do you can do one agent, or you can do 100 agents from us. You can really scale. So it's really suitable for a small business. And it's really important. I go back to this florist in town. If someone's calling you and you're the only one there and you're dealing with a customer in front of you, you really have to make the decision to step away from that customer, answer the phone, or let the phone go to voicemail. And so now that AI can at least take the call. It'll send the shop owner a text message with that call information on there. Or if they want to place an order, or however they want to have it set up, the AI can handle probably, I'd say, 60 to 80% of the call based on that business. And then the shop owner has an opportunity to get that sale without having to step away from their customer that's in front of them.
What a smart and practical way to use AI technology for Main Street business owners. Because the sale that's most likely to happen is obviously the person that's in your store. They're right in front of you. They've already driven to your place, they got a situation, and they're trying to find a business that can handle it for them. So you're not going to ask them to wait while you answer the phone and try to make another sale. But you certainly don't want to not answer the phone and lose the opportunity that's there as well. So because that phone ringing is the second strongest possible sale. Somebody who's calling you out of all of the businesses because they need your help. And let's face it, if you don't answer, they're hanging up and they're going to call somebody else. Now you can literally help the person in front of you and answer the phone at the same time, or at least help the customer on the phone. That is such a great solution to a real problem.
So there's a
Yeah.
lot of small businesses where they don't have somebody that's answering the phone all the time, or you're at the ball game with your kids, you don't want to answer the phone. I know a lot of small business owners that are answering the phone all the time, no matter where they are, because it's forwarded to their cell phone, or their cell phone is their main number.
It's really geared for small local business owners mainly.
Really is. That's our bread and butter.
Now, can it
We've
answer technical questions or?
Yeah, so we build the knowledge base for you based on your business. It can answer technical questions. It can give pricing. It can do as little or as much as you would like it to do. Everything is what I tell people. I said, if you were to train a new employee that was going to answer the phone for you, what is the information they need to know? Because that's essentially what we're doing. We got to
Right.
train
Yeah.
this AI to do that, and it can reference your website. It can reference your calendar. It can reference materials, databases, knowledge bases, any of that information. So, it really is it really is like an employee in a lot of ways that's there to answer the phone. It can also send emails. It can send text messages. So, and it can do follow up. So it can
Yeah.
also,
Yeah. No, that's
so,
incredibly useful. So, yeah, and it doesn't call out sick.
and it doesn't call out sick, and,
Yeah.
and it's always in a good mood. It
Yeah.
doesn't get,
Yeah.
tired after lunch or anything like that.
Right.
And
Right.
so,
Yeah.
and it can have different personalities. That's what's really also unique about it. You can have it. It can have different accents. It can have. We actually can even create office environments in the background, so it can have. It sounds like it's in a call center, or it can sound like it's in a, whatever environment. We can record voices, and we have, so you can really customize it to your business, and you can speed it up, slow it down, be more empathetic, depending on your business. So if you're a funeral home and you're dealing with people that are calling in more of a state that are, you want to be a little bit more somber and things like that, you can customize it for that.
That's amazing. My company that I sold was very dependent upon answering the phones. And we didn't have anything online where people could book, and so everybody was responsible to answer the phone. If it rang
Right.
more than 3 times, everybody's running to answer it. Because that means everybody's who's supposed to answer it is on another line. We never let it go to voicemail because just the independent numbers that I did of just missing one job a day for a
Right.
small business at the end of the year. And our tickets were small. They weren't, you
Right.
got roofing companies that are, $10,000, $15,000. Our average job size was $363. So
Right.
just missing one job a day, 5 days a week would amount to $93,000 at the end of the year. You don't think about that until you think about it and put those numbers together, and yeah, you don't want to miss answering the phone. So
No, you don't, and also, like, a lot of people are interested now. They're big into texting. They want to get it set up with the texting and all of that. So, we can set it up to the number. You can text the number. You can call the number. It's also really what's cool is we actually have the AI can do a live transfer. So if it calls, I need to talk to Dave. Like, it'll ask some details, and then it'll do an introduction, and it'll transfer to your cell phone. You can set it up to that. So if you want to transfer to a human, you can still do that. So it's really, as I said, tell people, I said, it's very customizable. Like, tell me what you want to do, and we'll tell you. There's probably, very few things that we could not really deliver on. I mean, we can do probably 90% of it now. And I tell people, I said, today is the worst it's ever going to be. It gets better every
yeah,
single day.
yeah,
It's just evolving as technology evolves. But so yeah, so that's one of our really cool ones, and then we have a lot of the traditional automations, email marketing, all of those types of tools that kind of go in that. But we lead with our voice AI right now because it's such a popular product, and we've got a strong team behind that. And it's really great for us is that we love to build out a demo. So anyone that's listening that's interested, and they contact us, like, we'll build out a demo number for them, a demo example, so they can call it and they can try it. And then on our site as well, we have some numbers that people can call into just to experience it. Because a lot of people have is it going to sound like a robot? How is it going to sound? Am I going to be able to understand it? Is it human natural? So we've
Right.
created a few different demos for different industries like insurance and HVAC and some of those industries. So you can do both demos. You can call in and listen to it, or you can put your number in and have it call you, and then you can kind of understand how it works both ways. So
And I would
um,
imagine by doing that, you're able to get their feedback and what they might want tweaked. So you set that up, and then they call it and
right,
they go, "Oh, this is great, but we really need it to be able to handle this." And you're able to, if you're able to accommodate that, you're able, at least so you
exactly.
know.
We do, and then everything's recorded. That's another nice thing too, is all these calls are recorded. So now you can use it for training. You can use this. You can kind of gather other customer data points. So we can either do an analysis for you, or you can do it yourself. But we can figure out, like, you're getting a lot of calls about this particular thing, or this, wanting to know where. Like, for example, you're getting a lot of calls, people calling, when to know when is your technician going to show up at the house. Well, you know what? Maybe we should ought to do. Let's do a little bit more proactive. Let's implement a texting system that tells your tech when they're on their way. So now people aren't just calling in and saying, like, "Where's your tech?" Boom, they got a text message that says, "Hey, Brian's on his way. He'll be there in 20 minutes or whatever." Those. So it leads to discovering different things that we can kind of help with the business. They may not have known, because, like, the business owner's like, "Well, I didn't know people were calling in that much," because Sarah's been answering the phone the whole time, and she just tells them, "Yeah, here it is," and never really says, "Hey, we're getting a lot of calls about that." So
Right.
there's
Right. Yeah.
interesting data points that we've been working with business owners that we've discovered.
Well, I know we're getting close to the end.
Yeah.
So, what are some of your favorite things that you've seen people do with this that that maybe you hadn't intended, or or ideas that popped up for you that were like, this is a new way of using this?
Well, I think the appointment setter was a big one for us. Like, realizing what we realized, especially when you're doing paid ads, because what we realized was that our customers were spending a lot of money on paid ads, and when they're getting those inbound inquiries, a lot of times the customer's shopping around, so they're doing a Google search, and they open a couple of tabs the same of you and your competitors, and they're either calling or inquiring about at multiple times. So it was really a game of who was the first to respond that typically got the business. So I kind of tell people, it's the early bird that gets the worm, right? So now when they do an inquiry, our AI calling within a few seconds before they even have a chance to call your competitor has been huge. So I think that's one of
Uh,
the biggest things, is where it's like, and that's why I tell people, I say, if you're not doing it, someone else is going to do it, and they're going to beat you to the punch, right? So I think that was one of the really unique things, because we just launched the outbound calling in July, so that's fairly new, and people are just extremely excited about that. So that's been rewarding for me anytime I see success. And the other thing too, I think, is realizing the amount of leverage that, like, mundane tasks that we all end up doing that we don't think about, that we can actually leverage and automate with AI, and through our follow-up pathway. I think that was it, and including automating, like, social media posts and all these things that we know we should be doing that we're not doing. And now what happened was, when we started letting these AI do these tasks, now the business owners are having more time to actually create more revenue, do more active reach out, do networking events, or follow up with people that they know. Are also going out and actually spending more time with customers. The one thing I'll tell your audience is, video testimonials are extremely powerful. So if you're a service business and you've got somebody that's a happy customer, having them either record it, or you going out and recording a video testimonial of them and putting that on your social media, is very powerful. Words, the problem with AI, the good and bad, anybody can write on the words, like, and AI can write out reviews or whatever. So what's becoming important is, showing your authentic uh, version and brand. You holding your phone up and doing a video, um, just an announcement or anything, and then posting it to your social media, is going to get huge traction. It helps the algorithms, without spending any money. So if I was to tell people, I said, if you want to get some growth without spending any money, start doing video uploads, and putting that on your social media and sharing that out, and then getting your customers to do video testimonial reviews. That'll be huge.
that is such great advice because people aren't expecting a video testimonial.
Right.
So that just makes that person more real. And people connect with it better. You're right. The problem is,
Yeah.
like you said, you hate doing it. A lot of people
Yeah.
just, yeah,
Everybody,
I'm
it's
not a big
uncomfortable
fan of it,
for,
but
but
I'll
just do it. Just have fun with it. And I tell people, I said, if you really don't feel comfortable, like, that's one of the things we offer. Like, we do that. We help people with video. We have professionals that do that. We can edit. We can do whatever you want. We do a lot of video ads now. but just start doing it. And if you got a little goofy personality, make it goofy, do whatever. But it is really powerful, and it doesn't really cost you anything other than some of your time and maybe a little dignity every once in a while. But it's well worth it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a really good way of following up with people because
Hmm.
the follow up is the thing that sometimes maybe people feel like, oh, this guy's just following up with me because that's what salespeople do. And so
Right.
if you can do anything a little bit different, and if you can do that, where you can just take a quick video and say, hey, Zeb, listen, I was really excited about our talk the other day, and I had a couple ideas that I think might help you. And hey, just whenever you want, just
Yes.
give me a call, and I'd love to go over this with you. Just something really
Yeah.
quick like that. It's not what they're normally going to get. And
Exactly. Texting. Especially nowadays, it's easy to do. Just open your text message and send a quick video of you.
yeah, yeah,
Do a text even. It's quick and easy,
yeah,
and it catches people off guard in a good way. They're like, "Oh, I'm not expecting the," and it's like, one, you took a few seconds longer than just sending a message. Two, they know it's not automated. They know it's actually coming from you. It's very genuine, and it's just kind of that raw, authentic version of you and your brand. And I tell people, I said, this think about ways to do it. Do it in front of your truck. Do it in front of your brand with your branding on it, your company in your office, and start showing the people that are behind the scenes, like have on your social media and things, like let them know, like show the office folks that are working there, show the technicians, show like more, because so much of it is kind of, especially if you're a service business and you're kind of in a warehouse or you're somewhere that people don't really see the rest of your company and all they know is your name and your tech that shows up. Show them that there's more to you. Um, and it's easy to do with quick video nowadays.
yeah.
So that's really good. The other thing I'll tell people, if you're a retail shop owner or anything like that, from a brick and mortar standpoint, is as crazy as it sounds, get on the TikTok live stuff and get on to doing live streaming. That's where the e-commerce and that's where the retail side is going. We all know QVC on TV. Become your own local QVC version on your on
Oh
your
wow,
on your
yeah.
social media.
I've seen people do
That's
that, and
huge.
and they've a couple
Yeah.
people have had pretty good success with that. So
It's huge, and the algorithms are picking this up, and it's a huge trend in Asia, and it's moving this way. So if you're not doing lives, you need to. That's a new area that we've kind of explored with our e-commerce. We've got some e-commerce clients now that we're doing, and then we get them connected with influencers. So anyone that's out there that's in that space, like it's powerful, especially with the holiday season coming up now. If you're trying to boost in-store sales and retail sales, supplement it with those online sales.
yeah,
Still keep your store, the brick and mortar, but remember that brick and mortar, you're kind of restricted. You've got a radius that people are going to travel to. So I tell people, I said the people which are in your area, and the people you don't know, the people you don't know is much larger. So go target them, and you can do it very cost effectively now with some of that. So,
yeah,
anyways, that's what I love to do. I love to problem solve. I love to just meet with business owners, bounce ideas off of them. Figure out what's going on. How do we incorporate things? It's always changing. So, if anybody ever wants to in your audience wants to reach out and just talk or grab a coffee, I'll make sure we have the links. I literally have a link that says let's grab a coffee, and you can grab a few minutes on my time, my calendar, and I'm always happy to meet and just chat and hear what's going on, and bounce ideas around.
yeah, yeah. No, I love that. And for anybody that doesn't want to go into the show notes and find the links, what is the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, well, our main website, happypathmarketing.com, is always a great place to start. I tell people, I said, go on there. That'll kind of get you everywhere you need to go. You can also go to followuppathway.com for our follow up pathway, but that's linked through Happy Path as well. And we've got all of the links to the AI and everything on there as well. But you can also just shoot me an email directly if you want to get in touch. It's really simple. It's Zeb at happypathmarketing.com. And so, shoot me an email. I'll make sure to respond. I try to get through all my emails every day with everything. So you can contact on my website. There's a contact us form. You can do a little bio about myself, my business partner, and you can kind of find out more about us on there and ask questions or whatever. But we're super low pressure. We're just here to provide solutions and mostly just really talk about how we can help each other out and just be part of the small business community.
Yeah, no, that's great. I would love to, if anybody calls you, I would love to be a part of those conversations and helping them think how they might be able to use this, because it's incredible technology, and just
Yeah, absolutely.
the problems that it solves of making sure that phone is getting answered and that customers are getting answers that are helpful to them, instead of just a menu, and just to leave a voicemail. That's just huge.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Love to have you on. We should do that with a few folks that could that'd be interested in learning more. We can do a little deep dive, um, kind of together, and get some good use cases, and maybe then they can join the show later on at some point and share with the broader audience some of the success stories that
Yeah,
they've had.
yeah, that would be great. Well, hey, it
Yeah.
has been fantastic having you on the show. You're a joy to talk to, and a very bright guy, and I love your focus on helping people, and it comes back to you. So I'm sure a lot of our listeners are going to give you a call.
Well, thanks for having me on the show. I enjoy listening to the podcast. I'm excited to continue to hear the stories of others. It's always inspirational. No matter what I do, no matter what corporate I go to, I've always come back to my roots, which is small business. And I love being around small business owners. There's a small business expo going on here in Vegas next month. I'm excited to attend. So, always happy to. Love a good excuse to travel. So if always gonna if I get a chance to get down to Alabama and visit, it would be great to catch up in person. I love to get around to see different parts of the country. So it's been a pleasure. I'm excited to continue the conversation in the future. We'll be in touch, and hopefully everybody here and the rest of the audience gets a chance to tell their story of how AI is helping them with their business.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, thanks, Zeb. Look forward to talking to you soon.
All right, thanks, Dave.
Zeb's story really highlights how curiosity, service, and persistence can open doors from corporate leadership to entrepreneurship. His journey shows us how innovation and trust go hand in hand, and how tools like AI can free small business owners to do more of what they love while serving customers better. And if Zeb's journey has sparked something in you, whether it's an idea of how you want to embrace AI, or just building trust bridges, or finding your own happy path, well, go ahead and take the next step and do it now. Check out Happy Path Marketing and explore a demo of all their AI tools. See what is in there that can help you grow your business smarter, run smoother. And I'm going to link everything in the show notes. So be sure to connect with Zeb, learn more about Follow-Up Pathway and Service Path, and start exploring how you can bring this kind of innovation into your own business. Don't wait, because the businesses that adapt this first are going to be the ones that thrive.